Welcome back to Issues of Faith. We are happy to have with us Mark Friedman, Executive Director of the Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation of Nashville and Middle Tennessee. You've led many trips to Israel, as we were talking about as we went to the break. My question to you, as somebody who's been over there many times over the course of many years, are you optimistic about where things are in the Middle East and relations among different faiths, or not? Where have you gone in the years that you've been?
Well, if I had the crystal ball answer for you, I would probably be in demand on a number of talk shows and forums, but I would have to say in general, I feel personally extremely optimistic that Israel grew out of the ashes of the Holocaust and the Zionist movement and restored Jewish life in Israel after 2,000 years of it really just mainly Jews living in other parts of the world. So that process in itself yields a great deal of optimism. And we talk about Jewish values that we practice in the Jewish community here and also that we see in Israel. And one of the most important aspects of Jewish life is the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And the Torah in the Jewish religion is considered the path to peace. That in observing and honoring our past through the history of the Jewish people, that ultimately Israel will be a place that will be living in peace, hopefully with its neighbors. But for me to be able to answer that question today is very difficult.
But part of what you might say is that people have maybe a wrong impression based on what they see on the news. When you take these trips, you say, it's maybe no more dangerous than some places you could go here sometimes. Is that right? Do you think people have the wrong impression?
I think that people might have a mistaken perception until they get there, and then that perception is typically changed. That they feel Israel is a very safe place. It's there's no greater place in the world in terms of historic significance biblically for three great religions, and it's someplace that people can learn so much and become enriched.
And part of what you do is it's the Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation. So we've talked about the Federation. What about the Foundation?
Okay, the Foundation is the endowment arm of the Jewish Federation. So we have about $30 million in endowment assets, and we have a number of opportunities for people to participate in the foundation. They can establish funds so that they can exercise their own philanthropy through donor-advised funds. They can set up funds that are designated that might support a specific program or a congregation. And our goal really in the next couple of years is to really build up the foundation, to increase its assets so that we'll always have a constant source of income to fund programs not only on an annual basis but perpetually. And we're about to enter into a program called Life and Legacy with the entire Jewish community, where we'll be working with the congregations and our agencies to visit their supporters and encourage them to establish what we call legacy gifts, so they can make a bequest in their will to leave money to a particular organization, or they can leave money, designate money through an IRA or establish an insurance policies, and these are leaving the organizations as the beneficiaries of those policies when they pass away, so that my children and my grandchildren will have the opportunity to participate in Jewish life. And that's a good time to take out another one of these Jewish Hebrew words, lador vador, meaning from generation to generation. That in the Jewish religion, as I'm sure in others, it's very important that we in this generation leave a legacy for the next generation so they will be able to enjoy the same richness of Jewish life as we do.
So generation to generation, are young people embracing the Jewish faith? Are you seeing an exit? What do you see from generation to generation? Because in so many faiths now, it's harder to bring the young people in.
Well,
what are you seeing?
To not acknowledge that has changed would be foolish. It has changed. People are able to exercise more choices simply because of mobility. Going back to the issue of intermarriage, it continues to grow because people are exposed to a much wider range of people because of that mobility. So what we attempt to do in the Jewish community, as I said earlier, is to embrace everyone and encourage them to practice Jewish values that really are universal. And that brings me to another one of our Jewish values, Tikkun Olam. That means to repair the world. So when you are engaged in activities of Tikkun Olam, you could help one single person. That helps to repair the world. You can go build a house with Habitat for Humanity, and that's an act of Tikkun Olam. You can help feed seniors at a senior care facility, and that's Tikkun Olam. And we find that young adults, the next generation, millennials, that they like to be involved in these kinds of activities. That
they like to get their hands dirty and actually
get their hands dirty,
yeah.
But they want it to be more episodic.
Right.
We find sometimes it's not as easy to engage people in long-term projects as it used to be. So we're making those adjustments because it's important. You can't sell a product if the person that you're trying to sell it to doesn't want to buy it. That doesn't mean you change your values. It means you refocus so that you're able to attract people to continue your mission.
Something I wanted to ask about, Violins of Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Violins of Hope.
Violins of Hope.
Tell me about that.
This is a very exciting project that we'll be working on over the next 2 years. There's a gentleman in Israel by the name of Amnon Weinstein. He and his family are survivors of the Holocaust, and he is a master violin maker and repairer who works in Tel Aviv. And over the last 20 years, he has been restoring violins that were played by prisoners in concentration camps, some who survived, some who unfortunately did not. But he brings these violins of hope, saying that through the music, we can only not teach about the history that we had, that people will learn what never again really means, but also to teach future generations about the pain of intolerance, of indifference, so that there is hope for the future. We'll have these violins on display, about 20 of them, at the downtown library. We are partnering with the Nashville Symphony and other community organizations. There will be musical presentations, there'll be artistic presentations, there'll be educational programs. It's going to be a very exciting program for the entire community, not just the Jewish community. It will begin in the spring of 2018, and in mid-April of 2018, that coincides with the 70th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel, which occurred in May of 1948.
Fascinating. All right, we have about 45 seconds left. What do you want people to take away from this? What would your final message be?
Well, my final message would be that the Jewish community is here to serve not only the Jewish community, but the broader community, that we are involved in all aspects of life, and that through the work we do, we're working to increase the fabric and the strength of the broader Nashville community, and also to let all Jewish families know that there's a place for them at the Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation.
And the final card you had there?
Well, it's two final cards.
Okay.
One is, all the work that we do is, the Hebrew word is tzedakah, and it's not just charity, it's also justice and righteousness, that we are doing righteous work. So to all of your audience, and to you, Ben, I'd like to say, Toda Rabbah. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Friedman, thank you very much. Thank all of you for watching Issues of Faith. Have a great day.